haven't launched anything for like 9 months. I have pretty much been dark on social media and I have sporadically appeared on this podcast. So you might be wondering, Stevie, where have you been? What have you been doing? And what is coming next? And if you have, you're going to love today's podcast episode. And if you haven't, then this is the episode that you didn't even know that you wanted. So if I was to kind of Taylor Swift style explain the era that I feel like that I am in, or probably more accurately coming out of at the moment, I would call it the slingshot season. So I have really taken a step back over the last 6 months or so, and really the last 12 months since my mum passed, to allow myself to get back to a position that I know is going to serve me as I go into the next season of business. And that's the first kind of thing I want to talk about, is this concept of seasons in business. I think that a lot of people are experiencing slingshot season involuntarily at the moment. For me, it's very much been a voluntary step back, and I'll talk more about me in a moment. But I think with the economy, with a lot of the changes that have been going on in the online business landscape at the moment, I know from a lot of personal conversations that I've had with friends in the industry lately that there has been a season of revenue kind of like slinging back a little bit, and people needing to rejig their offers, rejig the way that they maybe do online business in order to not even like propel their way forward, but to keep up. And it's been a season for a lot of people where it hasn't been this like consistent revenue growth that I think a lot of us have seen over, that period right up to about 2022 when things started to shift. And so this concept of seasons is really interesting to me, because for me, I've really gone through a season over the last 12 months where I have prioritized things other than business. I won't say for the first time ever, because I will say probably the year or two before that, I very much prioritized caring for my mum, and also I had a little baby. So I had a lot of competing important priorities, and I would say that I was really putting all of them right at the top, which I think, that's 3 big things to be carrying. Really, over the last 12 months for me, it has been a season of prioritizing things other than business in a very intentional way, and in a very, I suppose, fortunate and privileged way in a sense. What I mean by that is that I, over the last 8 years, have really practiced what I preach when it comes to online business. I have cultivated a high profit margin business, but more importantly, have been very, very intentional with what I do with that profit, investing it into assets outside of the business. That has really allowed me to carry myself through this drop everything season that I feel like I have been through over the last 12 months, where I've just had the grace to be able to be like, okay, well, I don't want to go all in on business at the moment, because I'm in a season where I'm navigating deep grief, where I'm navigating, all of the things that happen in all of our personal lives that sometimes as a personal brand-based business owner means that we're not going at full steam from the business side. And I'm really grateful for that. It's the reason why I'm so freaking passionate about teaching other people this particular flavor of business. I am going even more all in on it in the future, because I just want to impart the wisdom of like build a high profit margin business, be smart with what you do with that, cash flow, so that you can, get to a point that work is optional for you. Like, how beautiful is that? It is so incredible. And it still shocks me that this stuff isn't taught at school, but I digress. And so for me, it's really been a season of getting myself right and having the ability to do that. Now, from a business perspective, yes, things have been ticking along. I've had my evergreen funnel, and I might actually record a podcast episode on how my evergreen funnel has, been ticking along and some of the stats and things associated with that. I have, been showing up pretty consistently on the podcast. I haven't really been doing anything on social media, but I have just been allowing myself to be. And I would call that like a season of not even maintenance, because maintenance kind of means that you keep things the same, but a season of just letting the business be what it is and to tick along, knowing that it's going to serve me with a bit of a slingshot at the end of it. Now, I am very happy to say that I can absolutely see that being the case now. So over the last 12 months for me, there have been a couple of things that I have really prioritized that I think have like brought the magic back for me. So there's a few things that like just, I don't know like when it happened, and I don't know like what the catalyst was. You know, when you get so deep into something, sometimes you just kind of look up and you're like, oh, you know, how did I get to this point? But I lost a lot of the things that made me me. So for example, I stopped listening to music. Now, anyone that knew me pretty much in my 20s and into my early 30s before I started my business would know that like I have always been the person that like goes to live music, like knows all of the best bands, like is making little Spotify playlists. Like that has always just been part of who I am. I'm from a family that just was always obsessed with music. My dad was a drummer, my brother plays the drums. Like I just love it, and I've always been around it. And somehow I just got to the point that I never listened to music anymore. Same with reading. I have always been such a bookworm. I would always be reading, and I just kind of stopped doing that as well. Now, one thing that I have just noticed over the last little while, and I think this is like where I can see this like hockey stick starting to go from being like going down, getting myself back to where I needed to be to start to flick up again, is that I'm starting to feel like the old Stevie again. So like I get into the car and I'm listening to music, and that's just naturally happened. Like I haven't forced it. I'm noticing myself like reading so much. Like I can't keep up with all of the books I'm reading at the moment. And I'm so excited about all of these books that I want to read that aren't even business books, but a lot of the books that I used to read in the past, like music biographies and, that sort of stuff. And I feel like I'm getting back to like the version of me that I think is capable of being the most creative, capable of, having the thought leadership that these personal brand businesses require, is capable of like being innovative and bringing like new strategies back from a business perspective. And everything is really kind of like complementing the business side. Now, from a health perspective, I have really cultivated over the last little while what I call a domino habit. So I don't call it a domino habit. I actually think it's in a book, maybe Atomic Habits by James Clear. Maybe that book, maybe a different book. Anyway, this concept of domino habits is like where you decide to take up a habit, whatever it is, and it then becomes the catalyst that is like it knocks over a whole heap of other like positive habits inside of your life. So like for some people, and definitely for me when I started my business, like I stopped drinking altogether for a really long time. And that was like a domino habit that gave me the clarity to be able to write these blog posts really consistently and to be able to do all these different things really consistently. For me, about 6 months ago, I didn't even do this intentionally either, but I do think it's been a big catalyst for like this hockey stick, like slingshot that I'm starting to experience at the moment. But I really got into Pilates. Now, when I say really got into it, all I mean is that I downloaded this app. I think I got it for like Black Friday. It was on special. I absolutely love it. And every single day I open up the app and I do 30 minutes of Pilates. Now, I don't miss it, not ever. Like even when I went to Bali a couple of weeks ago, I was still doing my Pilates. And what I noticed is that just the power of like that one domino habit has had this like huge impact on every other aspect of like my health, my clarity, my happiness, my general health and well-being. And so like every day I will open up the app, the kids will get up, it's just before school's starting, and I'll make sure that I fit it in for that like 20 or 30 minutes. And the kids laugh at me now. They're like, oh my gosh, like mom's doing her Pilates, she calls it, my daughter. But it has been an absolute game changer for me, an absolute game changer. And I encourage you to think about, because I just could not explain or like give love heart eyes to the impact that that one little habit has had on everything. So like, because I am doing my Pilates every single day consistently, it feels like it's just like compounding my general like health and well-being. I'm getting a little bit stronger every single day. I'm feeling and looking better every single day. I feel clearer in the head. So I've been very consistently writing every single day, which is something that I'm really passionate about. I just feel the impact of it. Oh, like I'm eating better. So like I'm eating better because I don't want to feel like crap. I'm not having a glass of wine because I want to be able to give my best to my Pilates the next morning. And I know that that sounds so silly, but it has had such a huge impact on the way that I'm starting to feel as I move into this next season. And so if I was to like summarize the season that I have been up until now, it's really just been a season of like taking care of myself and letting things just tick along and let them be. And I think that that's one of those realizations or things that like we don't really get taught when it comes to online business. We get taught that, you know, you need to have a really solid plan for your year and you need to like build your revenue and you need to do all of these things. Whereas for me, what I have really found is that I can allow my business to mirror where it is that I want to be inside of my personal life at any particular point in time. And actually that experiencing like a little bit of a plateau can be the thing that can ultimately propel you to new heights. It's like you pull back in order to really move forward. And I can feel that now. Like I can feel it in every little ounce of my being. I have an Oura ring, which is like a health tracker. And it tracks what is called like your HRV. And so like the higher your HRV is compared to your baseline, the higher, like the better your general health and well-being. Anyone that's in health would be able to explain this better. But I have even noticed, so from, you know, like 6 to 12 months ago to now, my general baseline of HRV has absolutely exploded. Like I am getting like record levels pretty much every day at the moment because I have taken the time to like get myself to the point that I need to be. That feels really exciting to me because it means that I'm going to be well equipped to go into this next season with all of the like excitement, the possibility, like the inspiration that I remember having in the early days of business. I feel that spark coming back now. So the second thing that I want to talk about in terms of a little bit of a life update is that I have as part of this kind of like maintenance season, this slingshot season, been prioritizing my new role as a primary parent. So up until January this year, my partner has been the primary parent. He has been stay-at-home dad. He has just felt this call to go back to work. Like he really wanted it for himself. He wanted to get back into the workforce. My little boy started prep this year. So it was a good time to do that and he's loving it. Now he's working like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.-ish at the moment and he wants to, which, you know, he hasn't been working for so long and he's loving what he's doing. So that's great. And so for me, that means that I am now the primary parent. And so what that means is that my like role within our family unit has very much changed. Now, I was saying to a friend the other day that honestly, I could just be a stay-at-home mum for the whole rest of my life at the moment. I feel like my kids are a magical age. They're 3 and 5, and they are just beautiful, like so freaking incredible. And I'm just loving it. I'm going to look back on this season of my life and I'm just going to be like, I know, like there's seasons when you're living it that you're just like, oh God, I just know I'm going to look back and know how magical that was. That's how I feel with my life at the moment. Now, that isn't to say that, adjusting to this like new schedule hasn't been without its challenges. My little boy started prep. So he is at school from like 8 till about 2, which means that, the days are cut very, very short. And so I've been navigating that. He has just had all of the emotions that come from tiredness. He's got a new personality. I call it Sassy Jimmy, where he comes home, has this like big outburst and then like passes out on the couch with tiredness. So that's been interesting. And I've really, like, my role at the moment is from the moment that they wake up until like they're ready for bed. Like, I'm the primary parent. And that has been something that I wanted to give myself the grace to kind of like lean into and to try and enjoy the role as much as I can. So we've just gotten to term 2 at the moment in terms of the school calendar. And that was kind of loosely the date that I was like, okay, really give yourself grace over that first term. And then when you get into term 2, kind of start to see how you're at and where you're feeling things at. And so for me at the moment, in all honesty, like, I could just spend all my days and all of my moments with my kids. I have my little girl on 1 or 2 days a week, depending. And so we go and do adventures and we do things like that. I'm picking the kids up at about 2:30 from school. And so really, like, I have about like 16 to 20 hours a week where I can be working otherwise. And up until about now, I haven't really even wanted to do more than the bare minimum because I've been pouring into being a mum. And I think that this comes back to this like concept of seasons, right? Where it's like there's going to be seasons in your life where you can go hell for leather, and then there's going to be seasons where you want to step back, et cetera, et cetera. Now that I'm kind of like in this term 2, and I can feel myself kind of feeling energized and inspired, I feel like I'm going into this happy medium where I get to be a mum, and then I also feel inspired to use the hours that I have to start to move towards my goals. Now, that brings me to point number 3, which is the fact that I have been really intentional lately and just been doing a lot of deep thought around what I want to do with that time, the direction that I want to go in. I feel like your direction and giving thought and attention to that is so much more important than the actual thing that you're doing, like spending 50% of your time getting the direction right so that you're going in the right direction when you actually start, I think is really important. And one thing that I've been reflecting a lot on lately is like, what do I want to do with this next chapter of my life? I'm 42 at the moment, and I really feel like this is like, for me, an era where I want to have like a good crack. I want to have a good crack in a really balanced way to achieve things that feel really important to me. Now, I have been sitting down and thinking like, what actually is that? And I'm really happy to say that I still feel as passionately about the mission that I'm on at the moment that I did when I was like starting lifestyle business school, right? Which wasn't that long ago. It was about 2 or 3 years ago. But I personally have been on that mission for the 8 years I've been in business. And I can just see the impact that it's had on my own life. And like just this whole concept of like building a high profit margin business, building a business with like deep authority and personal brand baked into it, helping and serving other people, and then like getting your personal finances right to invest the assets so that you have this choice to do whatever the, wally you want with your time. Oh gosh, like I am just so passionate about other people getting to experience that. So that is a good thing. Like I know that I am on the right track with that. And so as I sit down and I'm like, okay, so how do I actually want to get that mission out into the world? That is something that I have been thinking a lot about and actually have been working a lot on. Now, there are some things happening behind the scenes that I'm not going to go into too much detail around. I feel like I've always had a habit of like sharing things and maybe giving too much away too early. So I'm actually not going to do that. Suffice to say that I just know that my mission is the right mission and that I am taking some pretty big steps and big moves to bring that to life in a bigger way, which feels so exciting to me. There's some other things that are on my mind as well in terms of like what it is that I actually really passionately want to achieve. One of those things is more of a philanthropic thing. My mum passed away from ovarian cancer, and one thing that like makes me extremely, honestly, just sad and angry is that there's still no early detection test for ovarian cancer. So a lot of people think that, I have a pap smear and I'm covered, and that's a totally different type of cancer. It's cervical cancer. And there's these amazing people like inside of Australia that are working on an early detection test. And I feel really passionately about thinking about how I can use my business, and the fact that there's so many of you beautiful women listening to this podcast to somehow further that mission. And that is something that has really been on my heart lately. And I think it's like, or come from this like renewed sense of like vigor and energy that I have. I'm like, I want to make that a part of like my mission and what it is that I do and that I achieve as well. So that has been on my mind as something that I want to do. And so I guess just generally, I've been getting really clear on like the direction that I want to go in, but so crystal clear, knowing that like this is probably like the last big swing that I'm going to take. I feel like I'm at a magical age where I can take another big swing, right? And really kind of like get what is on my heart and my mission out there and actually help the world. And I say that, like, I know it sounds a bit silly to say that, but like that is ultimately what we're doing, right? And so I have really taken the time to clarify what that is, most of which I haven't shared inside of, you know, this episode and some of which I have, but I feel really clear on what that is. And I've taken the time to get myself right in terms of like my health, my well-being, you know, my HRV score, all of the things to actually do that. Now, the one like thing that I want to make sure that I absolutely do not sacrifice in this like happy pursuit and feeling that I have and this inspiration that I have is this like balance of being a mum and being a business owner. So like I said, like at times I'm like, gosh, I could just like be a stay-at-home mum forever at this point. I'm just loving it so much. And also I have these like big business aspirations and making sure like I am a type A type of person. I have this like real ability to go all in on things. And what I need to do is find a way that I can be the best, continue to be, because I've been a freaking amazing mum, continue to be the most amazing mum and get to make these happy memories that I know I'm going to treasure forever, and also do this business side of things. Now, one thing that I think is really interesting is that I now have a necessary constraint around this. Whereas earlier it was always like, okay, well, I want to work 5-hour days and I want to do all of these things. It was always a goal and it wasn't a constraint. What I actually think has been really, really powerful, and I think will be really, really powerful for the remainder of eternity now, is that I have a necessary constraint around these two big priorities of mine. Like I have a certain pocket of time in which I can work and a certain pocket of time in which I am mum. And I actually think that that necessary constraint is going to serve me. It already has. Like I have been required to get really, really like savage around what it is that I do and what it is that I don't do. Like I sit down and I make sure that I have a plan for what it is that I'm going to achieve that day. Like I sat down this morning, I dropped the kids off at 9 o'clock and I sat down and I was like, right, I need to record a podcast. I need to do some writing. And then it's going to be 2 o'clock. They're the two things that I need to get done. Whereas before I would have like sat down, I would have checked my emails, I would have done a few different things. Like I actually don't have that ability at the moment. And I actually think that that is a little bit of a superpower. So that is a little bit of a like life update on what has been happening, where I have been, and a little bit of what is to come as well. If I was to, I guess, summarize what has been a little bit of a mishmash of an episode, I think the first thing in terms of points is this concept of like the slingshot season, the fact that, you know, whether necessarily or by choice or not by choice, you kind of go through a season of like pulling back on the business side of things to be able to flourish and to be able to kind of like pull forward in the next season is something that I think is a hallmark of this type of business and is something that is able to potentially, you know, give you more at the end of it than if you just tried to push through. The next thing that I want you to take away is the concept of domino habits. So what is a domino habit that you can install inside of your life that is going to potentially have a knock-on effect with everyone or everything else in your life? Like for me, it has been Pilates. Like I want to give Pilates a big schmacko on the lips because it has been the domino effect that has had so many beautiful like flow-ons in every other aspect of my life over the last 6 months. And I think there is one of those things for everyone. And it's, for me, been different things at different stages of my life. Sometimes it's been, totally giving up alcohol. In this season of my life, it's been this like consistent Pilates practice. But like, what can be a domino habit if you're feeling that real sense that honestly I was through a lot of last year, where you're like, oh, I'm in this, like, for me, it was deep grief. Like, how do I get out of this? What can be a domino habit that can help you to achieve that? And number 3, for anyone that is a mama to be, the fact that there can be so much magic inside of this concept of being a parent, and that actually being a parent, being a constraint on your business, can end up being a really positive thing. So for me, I am feeling good and I feel excited for this next chapter and what is to come. This was a little bit of a different podcast episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know. Reach out to me and DM me on Instagram at @StevieDillon_. I would honestly love to hear from you. So definitely come and do that. And I'll leave it there. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.